beard takes a lot of people by surprise, as no doubt you now know.
I perhaps should explain that I've just finished a film in Israel dealing with the life of Moses, which is the reason I have this beard. It serves several purposes. One, it helped me in the film, and the other is that people don't recognize me. Well, if the fact that it appears to glamorize the villainy of it, that happens to be the accident of the film and its true nature. Because as I said earlier, I have to believe, for whatever reasons, that these people were able to rationalize that what they were doing, if there is any truth in what we're saying, they have to be able to rationalize to themselves that what they're doing is for an honest purpose. I think perhaps in all political assassinations, this is undeniably the truth.
Right.
People take violence as the outcome, and violence is a very deep part of our society today, as we all unfortunately know. The Middle East is a perfect example, and most recent example, Vietnam, etc. The world, unfortunately, doesn't seem to be getting better or more kindly toward its neighbor. People do use those methods to solve their problems. And certainly this has always been true of political assassinations.
Can you conceive of a situation in which you would think of political assassination as ever being justifiable?
Well, I cannot think that that is the way man ought to resolve his problems. I don't think that's the purpose of man. I don't think that shows that, I don't feel it shows that man's growth is consistent as a human being with what his potential can be, if that's what he has to finally resort to. It appears to be the biblical truth, and may really finally be the absolute truth of life, no matter how much we struggle to find other ways of making life happy for people. But if it's true, then I think that we have to accept the fact that man is a very limited kind of an animal, and not the creature made in God's image, so to speak.
That's a very big lesson for us to have to learn.
That's right.
Did he ever come out and see you?
No, Mr. Grade is a type of man who, not really what you'd call an executive producer. He arranges these deals and then he lets you alone and says, you go ahead and make the film.
Right.
That's sometimes very good, but sometimes not so good.
Right. And the script is by Anthony Burgess?
Anthony Burgess, yes. And it's brilliant. You're Anthony Burgess.
Our Anthony Burgess. No, but give me some assurances that it's not, the Cleopatra size.
Well, when you say the Cleopatra thing, I think you mean is it done in a very large, glossy, kind of romantic style. No. We attempt to show that these particular Israeli people in 1500 BC, if you will, were a very simple group of nomadic people dressed in terribly poor clothes with very little, ignorant, uneducated, etc., who were beginning to strive to form a monotheistic religion, believing in one God, and also a viable nation. And see, we approach the film in a little different way, a more modern way, although we do not really get away from the Bible either, in that we show that Moses, for instance, when the Ten Commandments were written, he had written them before. We see episodes of the various occurrences of the commandments, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not commit adultery, etc., in which you see scenes leading up to Moses making these decisions. So that when he goes up into the mountain to receive the tablets from the Lord, he in effect has written these laws. And the purpose behind these laws is to say that the only way this nation can survive, if it has a group of 10 commandments which all of them adhere to, then it can possibly survive and live. It can become a unified whole, an integrated whole. And if it begins to break those conventions, like a house with bricks, as they begin to pull one brick out, the whole house will fall in dismay. And we approach it on that very simple, day-to-day, everyday, ordinary, kind of frightened people, rather than any sort of grandiose manner.
In the best sense, therefore, it's primitive.
That's exactly right. We had deliberately tried to make it primitive in terms of music that is written for it, in terms of the kind of dances. For instance, there were no dances as we knew in those days. So people began to do a kind of an improvised sort of a thing when they felt happy, so it doesn't have the effect of a corps de ballet or things of that nature. Dancing girls do not come out and perform. People get up and do peculiar things. They're very awkward at times, but they're very moving also. That has been approached to the film, and I think it will, I hope at least, it will be very exciting.
I suspect in many ways to hear you speaking passionately like that in fact it has been almost a religious experience for you. Is that in any case?
Well, yes, it has. You see, what I've had to do, I am not, I must tell you very honestly, a religious man in any orthodox sense. But I had to constantly read the Bible over and over again to even test myself against some of the theoretical things that Burgess was using in his approach. Burgess, for instance, had a great feeling for the Egyptians. And when I asked him why, he said, it's because I really don't know anything about them. Therefore, I'm fascinated by them. I know about the Bible, and I want to do something for them. And he writes dialogue for the Pharaoh, which is some of the most beautiful, poetic, and incisive language that you've ever heard. And when Moses comes to talk to the Pharaoh, to ask him to let the people go. And it's just brilliant, you see. But then you'd get to certain biblical things, and you wonder whether Burgess's approach was right and how to deal with it. So I found myself becoming a Jewish scholar. And I used to argue with the rabbis about Moses.
Yeah.
Plus reading all the books on him, you know.
Visconti, with whom you've worked and are going to work again, has said of you that you're one of the most perfectly mysterious people he's ever met. What does he mean by
I
that?
have no idea what he means by. The only thing I can say about Visconti, and probably one of the reasons we get along so well and he likes me, is that my birthday is on November 2nd and so is his.
So you both remember it for each other.
Yes,
well,
we do, yeah.
Can I say to you that I wish you joy on next November 2nd?
Thank you.
Will you be working with him at that time?
No, I think we should have finished the film by then. I'll be working with him from March through the end of June or something like that.
Do you ever stop working?
Oh, God, yes. I sometimes don't do a picture for a year and a half.
And then you get